Lesson 3.1, Video 3. Now let's take a look at graphs. And from graphs, how are we going to determine domain and range? Now remember, domain and range, there's different words for these. Domain is also considered independent variables. It's also considered x's. The range is considered dependent, and also you're talking about the y's. So now the best way for me to think about this is if I took this graph and we're trying to figure out the domain and range. Now remember, and a good way to do this is to do an XY table. Now I'm going to pick some points. Now I could pick a lot of points, but I'm just going to pick 4 and we're going to see if we notice anything. This coordinate is 3, 5. This coordinate is 3, 2. This coordinate is 3, negative 2. And this coordinate is 3, negative 5. Now I could have picked a lot of points. And remember, even though it's not drawn here, this goes on forever, up and down. So if we were just to take those points that I picked, I'd have an x value of 3 and 5 for y, 3 and 2 for the second one, 3 and negative 2, 3 and negative 5. Now if you look at all those things, what would you say the x's will always be? X's are domains, so basically our domain will be 3. It's not going to change because it's vertical. Every point on that line will have an x value of 3, so that's the domain. The y values, however, they're changing. And again, I could pick points way up here, I could pick points way down here on that number line. My y values could be anything. So when that happens, I would say that they are all reals. In other words, all real numbers. Okay? Now, there's a quicker way to write that, and that's to say all, and you do a double stemmed R. That represents real numbers, so that would be a shorter way of doing it. Alright, so let's try another one. Again, I'm going to pick some points on here, and I'm going to pick points that are easy, meaning they go through crosshairs. But I could pick anything. I'd get decimals, but I'm going to pick anything. We're going to do an XY table again. Now these points that I picked are negative 5, 7, that's this one, negative 4, 1, that's that one, negative 3, negative 1, that's that one, negative 2, 1, and negative 1, 7. Now again, even though the graph stops, this does go on forever. Okay, so I could pick an x value out here and go way up there to get the y value. I could pick an x value out here and go way up there and get the y value. Eventually the parabola will get over there, but it would be a very high and large y value. Alright, so what does this mean? Well, if you look at this, my x values can be anything. I stop at negative 5, but I could put in negative 100 and I get a value. So now my domain is all reals. There's that shortcut. Now my range, this one seems to be a positive 7, and again I could pick a number way out here and I'd get a y value way up there, so I could have a very large y value. So it doesn't seem to be limited on the largeness of the value, but do notice that the y value gets down to here and it stops being negative and starts being positive again. So if you look at the graph, that's truly what happens, isn't it? The coordinates go down, 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 which means our y values get smaller. Then all of a sudden it goes back up, it bends, which means the y values get big again. So the y values are kind of limited. In other words, my y values won't get anything below Nothing below a -1, it seems. So how do you write that? Well, you'd say range is y values that are greater than or equal to -1. They're not going to get any smaller than that because it bends and it gets bigger after that point. So these two are considered, from this graph, our domain and range. And this ends 3.1 video 3.